Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast with your host, Lorna Poole, sharing the secrets to creating wealth, investing, and that all-important money mindset. To find out more and accelerate your journey to financial freedom, head on over to www.lornapoole.com to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast. Would you love to know how to get to 10K in passive income per month within 3 to 5 years? Well, my guest today is going to share with you exactly how to do that. Chris Miles is the cash flow expert, and I love this, the anti-financial advisor, or maybe we'll chat with him about that a little bit too, is a leading authority teaching entrepreneurs and professionals how to quickly free up and create cash flow today, spending time doing what they love the most. He is an author and a podcast host of the Chris Miles Money Show, and it's been featured in US News, CNN Money, Entrepreneur on Fire, and has a high reputation with his company, Money Ripples, getting his clients fast, life-altering financial results. In fact, his personal clients have increased their cash flow by over $100 million in the last 8 years. Chris, great to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you.
10K per month, right? I know when I did my dating coaching, that was my dream, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs, when we start off, we're wanting to hit these 6 figures, right?
Right.
And 3 to 5 years is a short period, right? You hear a lot, business take a little while to get going and so forth. So I would love to hear from you, Chris. If I was starting out in the morning and, I'm looking to hit this 10K month, what should I be doing?
It's interesting because, so many people, you talk about like everybody wants to get to that 10K per month, right? That's like the dream. And that's usually on the active income side, right? That's not even passive. That's just active income in their business, and that definitely helps. Like if you can get to that point, there is a mental barrier breakthrough when you actually hit 100,000 or more a year or 10,000 a month. You start to get to a point and say, okay, yeah, I can see this happening, and the belief level jumps up, and that sometimes can be something that will help ease it in. But I'll tell you, I wasn't always there. I mean, I started out as a traditional financial advisor, the kind that basically sold you products, basically told you everything the banks wanted you to know, and my whole goal was to retire by the time I was 40. I was hoping to save up $2 million and then live on the interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't long before, it was about 4 years into that I realized, wait a minute, if I start talking to people that are millionaires, they scoff at the things that I teach. They think it's a joke. So what do they know that I don't? And I remember as I started to learn from some people that I knew here locally that were millionaires, and some of them were in their 20s and 30s. And I started to learn from them. I realized, like everything they do is almost the exact opposite of everything I taught. Like they aren't about saving for the long haul. They're about how do we create cash flow and income today, right? They're all about trying to create that right now. And it wasn't about saving up for someday. It was always about, hey, if we can create the income, the cash flow, we'll have more today and tomorrow than the person that's just trying to scrape together some table scraps.
Yeah.
And so that was a big epiphany. I had to shift that mindset to get out of that whole mentality. I had to get to the place of, okay, no, there's ways to do it smarter, and even not even just smarter, but doing it right. And so that's kind of what had to shift in me first. And that was back in 2006. And I remember after I started to hear the stuff they taught, I'm like, man, I can't be a financial advisor anymore. I can't stay in integrity and do this. So I left. I said, I will never teach about money again. I'm gone. Right. Well, pretty soon, of course, the people start asking me questions like, well, how do you do what you do? Like, or what's going on? Like, there seems like there's something different about you. And so people keep asking me financial questions. And that kind of led me down the path of teaching people what I was starting to learn, even if I didn't master it yet. And so you asked, like, how do you get to that 10,000 a month? Well, one of the key principles I focused on back in 2006 to get me to retire the first time when I was 28, the key principle I put hyper focus on was that dollars follow value. It wasn't about, finding the right opportunity or the right timing or, getting in the right deal or getting on the ground floor of some business opportunity. It wasn't that at all. It was actually figuring out like, what do people want and how can I give it to them? And especially if you're in business, right? Like if you're in business, this is absolutely essential because you see it firsthand. Like anything you do, you got to be, you could have what you think is the greatest product in the world, but if people don't value it, they won't pay for it. They got to value whatever you offer more than whatever they're paying you, right? So you got to give them a reason to let go of those dollars, right? Let go of that money. And so that's kind of what I started to do. I started asking like, well, what do people want? Like, how can I create a win-win for people? How can I serve them? How can I solve problems for them? And what happened back then was that people kept, like I said, asking me financial questions, even though I quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, all I wanted to do was teach ballroom dancing.
No way, totally different.
And so like, of course, they're trying to pull me back in, right? And so, I remember there was one of my friends that was a millionaire. He said, well, do you like doing some of these financial things? Do you like doing mortgages or do you like doing this stuff? I said, well, I like teaching. I do like people getting results, but I hate paperwork. And he said, well, why don't you find somebody who does like paperwork? And in scarcity, in that scarcity mentality, I never thought I could do that. I never thought that was a possibility to share, in the profits or share in the commissions, right? And then when he said that, I thought, well, wait, I could do that. And so I found somebody who actually did just like to do paperwork that wasn't necessarily the most social guy, but he was good, he was quality. And I said, hey, if I send you mortgage leads, would you pay me? And of course, because I was mortgage licensed, I could do that legally. And he said, well, of course. I was like, great, you pay me 50%? He's like, of course I would. I'm like, cool. So I teach them a little bit what to do with their mortgage for about a half hour or so, and then send them on to him. And then about a month or month and a half later, I see a check for $1,000 or $1,500 come in. And I was like, wow, that was easy. That was a half hour to an hour's worth of work at most. And I made over $1,000. That's over. It's like $1,000 or $2,000 an hour. What else could I do? And so I started becoming really good at connecting people because I was just naturally connected to people anyways. So I used my natural strengths. And that's the key for everybody in business is what are your natural strengths? What are the things that come naturally to you that you could leverage? And for me, I was a really good connector. Like people would say, hey, who do you know that does blank? And I was like, well, here, go talk to so-and-so. And this is before, the term affiliate marketing became a thing, right? This is just simple referrals, just simple, occasional people that would ask me questions. And even when people would say, hey, I'm looking, I'm going to be buying an engagement ring or a wedding ring here pretty soon. And I was like, oh, I know the perfect wholesale jeweler you should talk to. You'll save at least half, if not 2/3. At least 2/3 of the cost. You'll probably pay 1/3 of the price that you normally would. So go talk to these people. And then they would pay me a check for 5%, of a kickback, right? A referral fee. And so I started doing that. And next thing I knew, by July of 2006, I looked at the numbers like, wait a minute. Already in just a couple months, it was like 4 months after I quit being a financial advisor. In just 4 months, I was creating about $4,000 to $5,000 a month in just passive streams of income. I was working maybe 3 or 4 hours a week max for that kind of money. And that's when so I was doing the 4-hour work week before Tim Ferriss made it famous, right?
Yeah, damn. And you said something really brilliant in the beginning that I think I would like to point out is that you surrounded yourself with millionaires. Because as you said, they speak differently, they think differently, and getting your headspace to that so that you learn, you become who you hang out with. Absolutely. Don't you, Chris?
Absolutely. And it's not just of the millionaire status, because I know a lot of what I refer to as broke millionaires.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of millionaires in scarcity, right? Like there's a lot of millionaires that try to that save the cheap way to become a millionaire. They save their way to wealth. They try to be, as debt-free as possible, and they're just miserly almost, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about that, because I'm talking about those that really stay in a place of abundance. Like they really look at those eternal laws, those laws that never change, like value creation. Like really, that's the one thing. Even if all the dollars, if all the currencies of the world collapse today, I still know that I would be okay as long as I find ways to serve people and give them what they want. And I think that's a key principle that if you keep that always in the forefront of your mind, you'll notice that even if it's just active income or passive income, it's not hard to create income. Like it becomes easy. In fact, for me, it was so hard to make before that time, by the way, before I made I remember the month of June of '06, I made $18,000 that month. I thought, holy cow, like I've never made that much in a month ever. In fact, I remember just 5 years prior, I made that in a year, you know?
Yeah.
And so that, that big epiphany was like, wait a minute, like income can actually be easy. It has to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be a struggle at all. It could be actually very simple and calculated.
Yeah. And tell us, I'd like to go deeper into value creation, right? I'm just going to point them out first. Serving people, because they're huge, and active and passive. Explain that to our listeners, the active and passive income, because passive income at 10K, is a totally different level than, a lot of people think of active.
Mm-hmm.
So go a bit deeper about how, what's the thinking behind that, or how does somebody get to that?
Yeah, like I have a huge passion for getting people to really get out of that, to be able to work and do what they love, whether it's in a job or in a business. I love getting to that place where they work because they want to, not because they have to, right? And you got to create multiple streams of income to make that possible. Now, here's the big mistake that people make is that when they try to create multiple streams of income, they try to do it all at once. And you really can't, like, especially if it's through your business. I really recommend building one at a time, right? Like just, focusing on one. So for example, like in my business, between my business and my investments, I've got about 14 different streams of income. One of them is an active stream of income, right? Active means that this is the kind of work that you do, right? And I recommend if you're going to have active income, do something that you would love anyways, regardless of the money. Like that's going to be fun anyways, right? That's where it doesn't feel like work. For me, like that active income is I occasionally consult people. I actually coach people how to create game plans and strategies to do that. That's kind of more my active income. But I also have either residual or passive streams of income too. Like I've got income that come in, like I mentioned, like I still have today, even though I had to rebuild some after the recession. I have income streams today that are based on referral type relationships. I've got income streams that come in that are like monthly services, right? Like monthly products or products and services, things that I can offer, whether it be monthly or it's occasionally. Even through my podcast show, I can create income through that. Like all kinds of ways that you can create income, and everybody's business is different. And so there's different ways you can do it. Now, if you're more of somebody who has, maybe you don't even have a business, right? Maybe you don't have that side stream income. Maybe you just work a job. Or maybe you're trying to leave that job so you can work your business full time. One of the best ways is create other streams of income, like investment streams of income, especially if you've got savings. And so other passive streams of income, right? Passive things are things that obviously you set up the systems up front, but you're not having, you manage them, but you don't have to actively be involved in creating it all the time. For example, I've got rental properties that pay me every month. It was a pain in the butt to try to get the property up front. At least, actually it wasn't that hard, but that was the hardest work, right? Was, going to the bank, getting the loan, putting the money down, going through the sales process to buy the property. But then once it was done, I have property managers in place that take care of the renters. They found the renters. I didn't. In fact, it's all the way across the United States. I'm 2,000 miles away from some of our properties, So for us, like that was fun because the checks come in the mail every single month. I don't really have to do much for it anymore. That's the kind of stuff that's awesome. Or I've got, other investments I've done, like things that pay me on a monthly basis, or sometimes they pay me quarterly or whatever it might be. That's the kind of stuff that, whether if you don't have money, then go for the business route, right? Find those streams of income through the business, see if you can create business streams there. But if you do have money, look for ways to get your money working for you now. Don't throw them away into the stock market and gamble it away, which is what I used to tell people to do, right? That doesn't work. I've ran the numbers any way possible, and that does not work. But if you actually say, hey, how can I get this money producing and creating income for me now through different alternative means, right? Not the means that financial advisors sell you, but things that are more alternative, that are not as common for the everyday average Joe, but it is common for people that are wealthy. That's the kind of stuff you want to find.
So not common to the average Joe, but to people that are wealthy. So what are you talking about really? A little bit.
Yeah. So I mentioned real estate. That's one aspect. Yeah. And by the way, in the aspect of real estate, there's all kinds of ways to make money there. I mean, I just had a guest on my show that does, wholesaling, like does seller financing, and he becomes the bank, literally becomes the bank where the person pays them the mortgage payment versus the other way around, and based on how he can find the properties, he sometimes can make all of his money back that he put on that property within the first year or two, and then everything else is just gravy on top of that. I mean, there's lots of streams of income that could be done through real estate, and I love real estate. I think that's a great option for sure. There's also things like oil and gas, investing in things like that, like commodities, like oil. Lots of great options there. In fact, here in the United States, you even get tax advantages for investing in oil. So there's some benefits, additional benefits there. Every country is different, right? There's also things like notes. Notes are things like where essentially it's like a piece of paper. It might be you're the lender. You're like I mentioned, I get a seller financing. Well, sometimes you might be the person that's financing a project or helping to finance a project. So maybe you go into a deal, whether it be a business deal, real estate deal, or whatever it might be. You're helping to finance it. I even know somebody that offers people 1% a month, 12% a year, to essentially help them finance buying delinquent credit cards balances and stuff, right? So they might buy $25 of credit card, over those delinquent credit card balances. Their whole goal is just to collect a tenth of that, 10% of that, $2.5 million. But the thing is that $25 million they only bought for $700,000. So they buy it for pennies on the dollar in hopes to sell it for a little bit more.
And that comes back to what you're saying about value creation, right?
Yeah, exactly. There always has to be a reason that your dollars they have to be creating value in some way. If you ever hear a deal, they're like, hey, we'll pay you. I remember this in 2006 when I was first starting to learn this stuff. Somebody told me about a huge opportunity where they were paying you, they called it 12 Daily Pro, because every 12 days they would pay you 24%. I mean, do the math. If you reinvest that money every 12 days, that means in 36 days you double your money, which is crazy. Yeah. But when I asked her, well, how does this group make their money? And the guy told me, he's like, honestly, I don't know. In fact, she even says in her contract, you can lose your money anytime. Yeah. And I remember thinking wow, that's really hard money to pass up, because if I just get my money back out in 36 days, hey, then I got my money back and just let the rest of it ride and gamble, which was the problem. It was a gamble. And the millionaires that I know that live in abundance and that actually have they're millionaires and billionaires that their money lasts. They're not gamblers at all. In fact, they're anti-gambling, right? It's the broke people like the average Joe that gamble. They're the ones that buy the lottery tickets, And so
hoping. Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew it was a violation of principle. And even my friend said, hey, this is a violation of principle. And lo and behold, a month later, the thing went under. The whole thing went under, and it was a Ponzi scheme. It was a complete fallacy. They were everybody's throwing their money at it so fast that they could just take that money and pay other people back. And there was no assets backing it up, So there has to be that value creation, like you said. There's got to be that ability that you got to be doing something that serves people, whether it be with your time and energy or with your money.
And one quick question before we sort of wrap it up. The serving people, right? I remember a guy telling me, solve their big ass problem, right? Right? But people get a bit caught up in that, right? We make it complicated, or I do, right?
Yeah.
And also what our natural ability is. Sometimes we think everybody knows how to do that. So how do you pinpoint what that is for you?
Like your natural abilities and strengths?
How to serve somebody, like how to, there's so many, we're so bombarded with information now, and there's so many areas you can go into, and you hear, oh, don't do that because you have to buy stock or retail or whatever. You're better off online, right. How does somebody get through all this muddle?
For me at least, and I love to keep things really simple, and that's just kind of how I work, right? How I like to operate. That's how I keep my overhead so low and I keep so much profit, The biggest thing I think is, one, you just said this, find out what your strengths are. And one key way you can do that is actually just send an email or Facebook message or however you communicate, right? Or phone call, and just ask people that know you, say, hey, what are 3 or 4 things or traits or things that you know about me that seem like unique or seem like I'm really good at, right? Like I'm gifted at, or that the first things maybe you noticed about me. Because and by the way, if you even ask people that have only known you for a month or two, they'll probably say the same thing for people that have known you your whole life. Because the things that are natural to you, like you were saying, the things that you don't even realize people don't do well because you do it so well and you don't think you do it well, but everybody else sees it, right? It's like we can all see the talent in everybody else besides ourselves. So ask other people, find ways to do that. To me, that's a one key way for people to tell you, here's why we'll pay you money.
You know what? For love coaching, I used to get the girls to do that, like talk to men, talk to your friends, because a lot of the women they're like, I don't have anything to offer a relationship. And it's funny because as soon as you're saying that, I'm going, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's true. Like, really find out those key strengths. People hire you for your gifts, not for your weaknesses, right? So don't worry about the weakness. Focus on the gifts and the strengths and making that better. That's one. Two is finding out what your passions are. This will eliminate most possibilities in your life. Is what are you really passionate about? Like, what is a problem that you see out there today that you want to solve? And maybe it's something you want to solve. Maybe it's something you already have solved, whether it be through experience or you've done for others, or anything. Find ways that you can serve people in a way that is unique to you using those strengths, but also something you're passionate about. For example, I remember in high school getting tested and I was good at math, but I had no passion for math. Right? So, but that's why you can't just rely on strengths, because if I did that, every test was telling me I should be some sort of engineer or something. And that's fine, but that didn't give me passion. I really liked working with people. I really love teaching. That's my thing. In fact, that's the thing I do, even though I can retire right now. I was able to retire again 2 years ago and making over $10,000 a month passive income. But I was like, no, I need to keep active. I need to keep that fire burning, and by the way, that's a huge question to ask is, if money were no issue, what would I spend my time doing? Sometimes that can get you honed in on really the thing that you want to do is, hey, what if money were no issue? What would I want to do? And don't say you want to travel, because the truth is you're not going to travel 52 weeks out of the year.
No.
That's exhausting, right? Now you might travel a little bit. You maybe travel 9 or 10 weeks out of the year. Great. But you're probably not going to travel that often, and so really find out what that thing is that drives you, that wants you to get out of bed every morning, or something that maybe keeps you awake late at night. If somebody were to ask you questions about or start talking to you about a subject, you just want to keep going. That's when you're on the right track.
Love it, Chris. This has been fantastic. Chris, for anybody listening to this today, they're totally inspired by our conversation about creating 10K passive income. What's the aha you'd like to share with them?
The biggest aha, I think, is relax. Don't force the results. In fact, the more you force results, the longer it will take. And this has been true with hundreds of clients I've worked with. The ones that are relaxed, that believe it's possible, not only believe it's possible, but they just know it's going to work out. Those are the ones I tend to see the fastest results in. Even if they don't financially have everything in place, they've actually far exceeded those that financially were in a better off than they were. They had everything going for them. But the ones that had a lot of doubts or fears that kept crippling them and holding them back, those are the ones that got passed up by people that had what seemed like less potential. So relax, let go of the fear, and just trust that it's possible. And in fact, not just that it's possible, but that it's inevitable, that it will happen in your life.
Chris, I absolutely love that. Absolutely. I've changed my life from just start and then figure it out. And I can tell you it's a better way than just, I'll do it someday. Yeah. And I love the way you said, relax and trust. Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Chris, how do we find out more about you?
You can go to my website, moneyripples.com, or, check out my other podcast. I have a podcast show as well on iTunes or any podcast app that you go to, called The Chris Miles Money Show. And I teach lots of this kind of stuff.
You offer a free ebook.
I do. Yeah. On moneyripples.com, there's an ebook called Beyond Rice and Beans, 7 Secrets to Free Up Cash Today.
I love
and
that.
So that basically just covers the major ways that I've shown my clients how to find and free up cash.
Love it. I love the title. Thank you, Chris. Just to let everybody know, do call over to our Financial Freedom Podcast Facebook group. This is a safe haven where like-minded wealth creator go-getters are there. So to to get to know me intimate and get the support and guidance to get to where you want to be, go to www.facebook.com/groups the Financial Freedom Podcast. And thanks, Chris. This has been amazing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, to creating wealth, investing, and developing your money mindset. To get started today on your journey, head on over to www.lornapoole.com and grab your free course, 5 Steps to Breaking Free from Your Poverty Mindset and Accelerating Your Journey to Financial Freedom. See you there.